I have another lesson for you. We're going to be talking about Genesis, and my last video was about the first day of creation. So if you haven't watched that, I'd recommend going back and watching it because there's so much just within the first few verses of Genesis in day 1. But we're going to go through the other days of creation. And the first day, God created light, but it did not come from the sun or the moon or the stars. It was just light from Him, and it says that the surface of the earth, He hovered over the deep, so there's water, and so the light came. And day 2, He separated the waters. So if you think about the water in the air, we can't see it all the time, but it's something we breathe in, and sometimes there's really humid days, and that means there's a lot of moisture in the air, and it can feel kind of sticky. And then there's the clouds that contain lots of rain and moisture, and the atmosphere with all this water in it, it protects us. If we didn't have that, we would be really dried up, and the sun would be much too harsh for us, way too hot, and so we are protected by the earth. And then day 3, He made dry land appear, and He gathered the waters into seas. So now dry land, I don't know exactly what it looked like. And then days 4, 5, and 6, you can think of them as days that were filling the other things He had made already. So God made the sun and the moon and the stars on day 4. And they were filling the space around the earth. And they were created so that we could have almost like a calendar. They were to mark seasons and days and times of the year. And they were also useful as a compass. If you needed to chart your course, you could use the stars or the sun or the moon. So a calendar. Day 5, He created the sea creatures and the birds. And sorry, I forgot to mention that plants, very important, were also created on day 3. So all the vegetation, and He made them with seeds in them so they could reproduce on their own. So the birds and the sea creatures came along. God created them to fill the sky and the water. And then day 6, He filled the land. He filled it with the land creatures. And then He made mankind. He made people. And this is the reason why He made everything else. If we are having guests over, we want to prepare our home, prepare a place for them before they get to our house, ideally. And so God was preparing a place and making sure it had everything needed for mankind to enter. This was like a home for humans. Alright, so when God created mankind, He said, let us make mankind in our image. So God is one God, but He is able to be in more places than one, and able to be almost like separated and yet totally connected. We can't really wrap our minds around it because we aren't capable of understanding it and seeing it yet. We're still in a fleshly body with fleshly eyes, and we aren't able to know as much as God. But He said, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds of the air." So he wanted humans to rule over all creation, rule over the livestock and all the wild animals. And to have this authority of being rulers, which everything was perfect, and so ruling over his creation was going to be done in a perfect way. Authority was given to mankind, and they wouldn't mistreat it or abuse it or be harsh or cruel. It was something that would have been like a role of protection and caring, and the way that God would have authority over us. He wants to love us and protect us, and so authority was a really good thing. And God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them male and female. So everything about humans and male and female was of God. And we have our physical body, and then inside we have our spirit. And so imagine just the spirit dwelling within our body. Our body is sort of like a tent, and our spirit lives in the tent. All right, so God had given mankind authority. They were made in his image. He wanted them to be fruitful and multiply and to fill the earth. And he also gave them food, and he was very specific about what they were to eat. He said, "I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth that has fruit with seed in it. They'll be yours for food. And to all the beasts of the sky, and to all the creatures that move along the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food in it." So basically every creature and every, Adam and Eve, they were vegetarians. They didn't eat any meat. And part of that is because this is what God created for them, but also everything was at peace. There was no death. There was no animals attacking each other or attacking people or people killing them. Everything was at complete peace and beautiful and good. All right, now we're going to talk about the last day mentioned in the days of creation, which was day 7. "Thus the heavens and the earth were completed, and all their hosts. By the 7th day God completed his work from which he had done, and rested on the 7th day from all his work. Then God blessed the 7th day that he had made, and made it holy, because in it he rested from his work which God had created and made." So God is all powerful. He doesn't run out of energy. He doesn't run out of power. But he was done with the work, and now he stopped the work, and so he rested. And later on, when the Israelites were being led out of Egypt from their slavery, from the Egyptians, Moses had met with the Lord, and God gave him the 10 Commandments and many other rules that the Israelites should follow, because God knows the things that lead to destruction and the sin that leads us further away from him. And so that's why he made those rules and laws, so that people would know how to draw near to him and what was good for them and pleasing to God. And he said to remember the Sabbath day, the 7th day, by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall work and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath. So a day of rest. And he said, for in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth and the sea and all that is in them. But he rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. So it was set apart as a holy day. And then in the New Testament, Jesus comes and he is baptized. This new life of baptism that God has given as a sign to us when we have new life in Jesus, because sin leads to death. But when Jesus was baptized, he had this Holy Spirit come down in the form of a dove and remain on him. It rested on him, this Spirit. And God's Spirit rested on the Sabbath day. And Jesus is our rest from sin and destruction and anything that keeps us away from God. And in Matthew, Jesus says, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. This is a comfort. Because the world is a place of burdens, and we get so weary of the sin that is against us, that the sin which is in us, that we also act out towards others. But he is the rest from all of that. And he says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. Alright, so God has prepared this earth for us as a place to live. But when sin entered the world, death and destruction entered the world. And so it's a dying world. Everything is coming to an end. The plants and the animals, people, the earth itself, we're all gradually heading towards a death, basically. But Jesus was talking to his disciples right before he knew he was going to be arrested and crucified. And he said, do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. My Father's house has many rooms. If that were not so, would I have told you that I am going there to prepare a place for you? I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. You know the way to the place where I am going. So Jesus is giving them hope. He's saying, you believe in God, believe in me. They are the same, one and the same. Jesus is God. And he is going away to prepare a place for us. Now it's probably not going to look like a house that we would imagine a house might look like, but he was giving them a picture of a place where they belong, a place where they can live, and we will live with God. And that he's coming back. This is really encouraging. He will come back. And then in Revelation, the very last book in the Bible, a vision had been given to John, and he said, I saw a new heaven and a new earth. So God is preparing a new place for us to live. I have no idea what it looks like, but the point is that this old earth is full of sin and death. And so it will pass away. It says, the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there is no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a very special place. It's where God had his people set up the temple where he could dwell with them.